Well, hey everybody, it is Monday night. That means it's check-in Monday. Grateful to have you joining me on this evening, and we're just excited about uh, this time. Of course, this is Monday, June 12th, and I tell you, I'm just excited about everything that's happened, everything that's going on, and I pray and trust that you are also, and that you are feeling blessed and favored of God on tonight. I want you to do me a favor as you coming in. Just do this for me as we do every week. Do this for me here. Yeah, like and share, and let's share on this evening. And if it's your first time with me, please let me know it's your first time viewing on this on our check-in Monday. We're going to get started in just a moment, and I want to um, just make sure that we're doing everything that we need to do. Um, I think we have. Uh, yeah, we're right where we need to be. And thank you so much for everything. All right. Well, let's get started tonight, and let's move right over into what we want to do. All right. Let me make sure. All right. All right, here we go. All right, so tonight I want to talk to you very brief tonight, and I want to talk to you about cost versus value. Cost versus value. The price of being accepted, or trying to be accepted, or the price of acceptance. And I want to talk to you about that tonight. Of course, all of us know and we recognize that when you talk about cost and when you talk about value, we all recognize the cost of things. That is one thing that we found out that most of us, when we purchase something, the first thing we want to know is how much it costs. It's very important for us to know the cost of things. And sometimes that will determine if we will buy a certain thing or not, no matter what it may be. We'll say, well, I would buy that, but it costs too much, or I'm going to wait till the price come down. I'm going to wait till I get a better price or a better value on it, or a better price, should I say, on it. But we sort of go and say, well, I don't want to uh, pay a lot for that particular thing, or pay a lot for those things. And so sometimes we do that, and when we really do that, uh, I have to admit, sometimes that's the first thing I ask is how much it costs. I want to know what's the cost of this particular thing that I'm getting ready to buy. Or if someone asks me about buying something, I want to know, and I say to them, well, what is the cost? How much is it going to cost? And sometimes when they give me the price, if they give me a price, uh, if they give me a price, uh, and all right, y'all. If they give me a price, sometimes I'll be like, well, but now here's the thing that we've got to really look at, and we got to pay attention to is you can have, and looking at the cost of things and how much they cost. And very seldom you'll find do we concentrate on the value of a thing. We really concentrate on the cost of a thing, not so much on the value, but on the cost of a thing. Sometimes we purchase stuff based strictly on cost and not value. Many times we'll find that to be the case in a whole lot of situations. We're just strictly dealing with the cost. And but we need to understand that there's a difference between the cost and the value. There's difference between the cost and value, because if you really think about it, you got, well, some things cost a lot, but they don't have much value to it. Think about that. you got something that cost a lot, but they don't have much value to it. And sometimes you pay a lot of money for it, but once, like a car, sometimes you pay a lot of money for it, but as soon as you drive it out the lot, it has already lost its value. And what you paid for it was probably way much more than you should have paid for it. But now that particular cost is high, but it had no value. So often what we find is sometimes things cost a lot, but they don't have any value. And then there's some things that have value, but really don't cost a lot. And you got to sort of look at that and understand something costs a lot but don't have value. And then there's some things that have value but they don't cost a lot. And you need to understand that sometimes we are dealing with situations where, the price we pay for certain things and the cost and whether we put the value on it. So you got to understand the value versus the cost versus the value. Where do I put my cost? Where do I put my value on a certain thing? And the truth of the matter is we never really take time sometimes to really look at that or to pay attention to that. And sometimes I know, and I don't know if you have, but I paid a whole lot more for stuff than I should have. I paid a whole lot more for stuff that I should have paid for. And then once I got it somewhere down the line, maybe not too far from when I purchased it, I found out that it wasn't as valuable as what I paid for it. And then there's some things that I have that I didn't pay a lot for, but they are more valuable in what they do. They're more valuable in the stuff that I can do with it and the things that I can accomplish with it. And so we've got to start looking at what is the cost versus the value of things. And I'm going somewhere with this because you got to understand, we talk about cost and we talk about value. But now understand that we often, we are willing to pay the price of acceptance and overlook our own value. And that's what I want to deal with tonight, that sometimes we're willing to pay the price of acceptance, trying to be accepted by others and overlook our own value. Sometimes we put our value way on the low scale and we've paid a great cost trying to be accepted, but we have not put value on ourselves. And we've got to understand that you got to stop allowing people to place value on you and recognize your own value. Because some people don't value stuff. They want a cheap price. They want to pay as less the amount they can for it, and they want to pay a cheaper price to get greater things. And sometimes even when it comes to you and I, sometimes people, they don't mind, they put some value, but not value on you to the place that they should or the price that they should put on you. And so they don't put that value on you. And sometimes we don't put our value on ourselves. We allow too many people to say how valuable we are. And sometimes when you do that, people get a little bent out of shape. But you got to know your own worth, your own value. You can't allow people to just put a value on you and say to you what you are worth and what you are. And so we've got to stop allowing people to place value on us where we don't recognize our own value. You've got to recognize your own value, what you do, what you bring to the table, who you are, what you present. And you've got to stop allowing that. I'm talking about in every area of your life, whether it's church, whether it's the business place, whether it's in relationships, whatever it may be, you've got to stop allowing people to put a value on you, because when they do it, they may value you way lower than really what you're worth. And you need to understand that. You've got to start asking yourself, what cost am I willing to pay for acceptance? Because sometimes we pay a great price trying to be accepted by groups of people, by individuals, by people, period. We pay a great cost. There's a great price that we pay. And sometimes we pay too much trying to be accepted. We went out of our way to be accepted. We've done everything we can do to be accepted with people and by people. And we're finding out that it's just not sometimes worth the cost. It's not worth the cost of your mental state. It's not worth the cost of emotionally. It's not worth the cost of what you have to deal with and what the things that is required for you to do, or the things that you have to do, is just too much. And the price that you're paying is really is more detrimental to you than anything, because of the price you're paying for what's going on. And so you've got to stop allowing yourself to let others put value on you. They're the ones saying how valuable you are. And then when they devalue you, and when they figure that you're not worth that anymore, then they don't put value on you, and then they reduce the price on you of what your value really is. So that's why you've got to stop allowing people to put the value. You got to ask yourself, what cost am I willing to pay to be accepted? We must start putting value on ourselves, on our self-worth, because if you don't value yourself, nobody else will. If you don't value yourself, nobody else will. I'm going to say that again. If you don't value yourself, nobody else will. Now, I know people sometimes have a problem and say, well, they just conceited, but no, not conceited. You got to put value on yourself. You got to know who you are and put value on yourself, because if you don't value yourself, there are a lot of people that will never value you. But if you value yourself, if you set something for yourself, then they've got to value you, because that's your benchmark. That's what you believe. That's what you say about how the price of and the value that I place on myself. And you've got to do that, because if you don't, you'll find that people just will not at all value you. And the reason they figure they don't have to is because you have a low self-esteem about yourself, and you have not put value on yourself. And anytime people see that you're vulnerable, and they can look at you and see that you don't have much value put on yourself, then that's the way they treat you. Have you ever understood and seen how they treated other people? But they treated them that way because the other person or the other people put value on themselves. They had a certain thing that they would not let them devalue them. And you've got to get to that same place, that you don't let people not value you. Don't let people not put value on you. You've got to value yourself. And if we don't value ourselves, nobody else will. I'm going to say that again. So there's a difference between just the cost and the value. A lot of times we got the cost up here and the value down here. And actually the value should be higher than the cost. Value says that I can get some out of this past just this date that I bought it, or just this date that I purchased it. It's like cars. There's some cars you pay a lot of money for, and you pay a heavy price in cost, but they don't really give you what you want. But you got another car that you didn't pay a lot of money for, but it's been running 15 and 20 years and got hundreds of thousands of miles on it and still running. And the other car you bought didn't last you but about 2 or 3 years, but you paid a lot more money for it. But the value of the car that you didn't pay as much for has given you more out. You've got more out of it than you did out of anything. And so this is why we've got to start valuing ourselves. You got to, and I'm going to say this, you got to stop. I said this earlier on a post. You got to stop chasing people down to be accepted. That cost is too high. Chasing folk down to be accepted, that's a high cost, because if you pay that much for it, whenever they figure you're no more valuable, then all the money you spent, when I say money, you know what I mean, all of that you spent, you can't get it back. It's gone. So what you got to start doing is you got to start valuing yourself and say to yourself, I'm valuable, and put a value on yourself. This is why even when you read in the scripture in Psalms 139 and verse 14, he says, I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. He said, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. You've got to look at yourself and put value on yourself. Stop allowing people to put you in certain categories and put you in a certain place and make you feel that you don't fit in, and you're not on my in my class and my stuff. Everyone's got value where you are, but you got to know how valuable you are where you are. You got to let yourself understand that when I put value on myself, I'm not going to overprice. I'm not going to think higher than myself than I should. But at the same time, I'm not going to think that low of myself either. And you've got to know your value and your worth. You got to know where you are and what you have. You've got to learn to put more value on yourself than the cost of trying to be accepted by people. What's the cost you're willing to pay to be accepted by people, and just to find out that the cost you paid for it really wasn't even worth the value. There's nothing you get from it. There's nothing you gain from it. There's nothing that comes back to you. And it's just a high price, but there's nothing that happens for you. And you need to understand that. You need to get to the place that you stop putting more value on the cost of it than you do on the value of what it really will produce and what you'll really get out of it. So there is a difference between the cost and the value. Again, we concentrate on cost, not value. And sometimes things cost a lot but don't have no value. Then there's some things that have value that don't have any cost. That's why when you see these old cars, now let me just say this to you. These cars of today, they're nice. And, people brag about they've got this kind of car and that kind of car. But let me tell you something. If you take one of those old cars and get one and get it refurbished and redone, I'm talking about one of them antique cars, one of those cars from the, probably from the 70s or 80s or somewhere in that area, maybe even the 60s. And they weren't made out of plastic. They weren't made out of whatever this stuff they make cars out of. They were made out of that real stuff. If one of those cars hit your car, that car gonna survive. Your car gonna fold. My car gonna fold because they ain't nothing but plastic. That's just a plastic car. It's plastic over metal is what it is. And so that's why when you see these old cars that people redo and they ride around with them, and everybody's like, well, why you pay so much money for that car? It wasn't the car they were paying for. It was the value of that car that they were paying for. It was the value of the longevity of the car, what they got out of it, what it produced. That's why some people, they don't want to give, even if they buy a new car, they keep their old car that's got all those hundreds of thousand miles on it, and that car's been driving them around 15 years, and it's still getting them around. And they just bought something, and it's been in the shop 10 or 12 times since they got it. When you think about Cadillacs, my uncle used to love Cadillacs, and I think it was that Fleetwood Brougham, I believe it was, that's what it was. He had a blue Cadillac. He bought it in 1980. That thing was nice. Man, I wish I could have kept that car forever. That car was a nice car. It was a good traveling car. It was a good riding car. But now we got some of these new cars. Uh, I've got a, a Lexus SUV, and let me tell you something. Uh, you know, you can. Uh, there was an accident that happened in that car about 2 years ago, and the whole front of that thing almost folded up, and it wasn't even no big accident. It was just something very light, and that thing folded like crazy. Just folded. I mean, just can you imagine that? Just folded up, and you because these bodies are made out. The cost is high, but the value is not much. And so I want to say to you tonight, and I'm going to get out of here. Just wanted to check in and encourage somebody. Start putting more value on yourself than the cost of chasing acceptance. The price of acceptance is too high. Don't put yourself in that place that you pay so much on being accepted that you lower your standards. You lower who you are. And then if you do that, then it gives them leeway to make them feel that they can treat you any kind of way and say any kind of thing to you because you don't value yourself. You got to value who you are. You got to know who you are and rest in the fact that I am who I am. God has invested in me, and I've got what I've got, and I just refuse to devalue myself just so I can fit in. Can't do that. God has made you. He's put value. You may not be valuable to everybody, but take it from me. All of us are valuable to somebody or somebody's. And so you got to know that. Where you may not be valuable here, you may be valuable there. And stop chasing acceptance, because the thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to be chasing stuff down already, and you get there, it look like you think they accepted you and they didn't, and then they mistreat you, they act like you don't exist, and you doing everything you can trying to fit in, wasting your money, wasting your time. Don't do that. It's not even worth all that. Understand who you are and who your value is. And I have to tell you, I refuse, me personally, I refuse to be in any setting or group where I know they don't want me there. And they don't, and I'm not going to leave my house and go somewhere so you can mistreat me. That's not acceptable to me. My value is more than that. So I'm not going to leave my house to go where you can mistreat me. Not going to happen. I'm going where I'm celebrated and not tolerated. That's where I'm going. And I'll say this to you, and I'm gonna close. My grandmother raised me, and I love. When I say I love Perry Mason, I have to tell you I love Perry Mason. I still love it today. And my grandmother, she raised me, and I was looking at Perry Mason one day years ago, and there was a statement, and I was a little boy, so to show you how long ago that was. I'm not an old man, but I am 62. But I remember the statement that he made on one of the shows, and he says, even a dog can distinguish between a trip and a kick. Remember that. Even a dog can distinguish between a trip and a kick. I want you to think about that. I'm going to leave that right there and let you think about what I just said. Even a dog can distinguish between a trip and a kick. I'm going to leave that one right there. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get out of here, y'all. I see y'all. Thank y'all so much. I see Sister Austin, Sister Fikes, Brother Kelvin, God bless you. Sister Sandy, my old, we grew up together. Sister Hall, I see you. Kenny, I see you. God bless you. Thank you so much. I see y'all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. Please do me a favor, like and share it with somebody. Someone needs to hear this. And let's start putting value over cost. Value over cost. You hear what I said? Value over cost. Go back and look at the graphics on my first graphics, and it says simply, you see that the little scale and value outweighs cost. You gotta look at the value of friendships and not just the cost of them. Some of them cost too much, and they cost you more than they cost the other people. Cost you more than they cost others. Everything has a value and a cost. Which one are you looking at the most? All right, I'm out of here, y'all. Thank y'all so much. I pray that you all would have a wonderful time tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. You can meet me for Bible study. I'll be here at 7 p.m. Going to be teaching tomorrow night. I think I'm going to be teaching on discernment tomorrow night. I feel a need to do that. And if the Lord say the same, that's what I'll be sharing with on tomorrow night at 7 p.m. right here, back on tomorrow night. The Lord bless you. The Lord keep you. Thank you so much. And just remember that our best days are ahead of us and not behind. And tell yourself, I am valuable. I'll see y'all.